Has started. So now what I'd like to do is just take a minute to go over our access and accommodations available for everyone here, just so that it's a reminder for resources available. So your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation's design or delivery that present barriers to accessibility, please notify one of the following. Online students can reach out to the Online Accessibility Center by emailing oac@snhu.edu or by phone at 866-305-9430. Campus students can reach out to the Campus Accessibility Center by emailing cac@snhu.edu or by phone at 603-644-3118. And SNU staff and faculty can reach out to Human Resources by emailing hr@snhu.edu. All right. So now what we'll get to do is I'm going to go ahead and pass the microphone over to the lovely Sarah Telfer, who's just going to share a little bit more about Global Days with everybody for some more information. So Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Chantel. Um, so we're hoping that some of you have participated in Global Days of Service this year or one of the past years. So that's a program that's been around for about 7 years. The sort of duration of it and strategy of it has had several different iterations, particularly over the last couple of years. But this year, it was held for 2 months during March and April. And the goal of the program is really to provide an opportunity to really build community, both within the SNHU community, but also to support our local communities where we all live and work. It's generally a mix of DIY projects, some one-time service opportunities. We like to have some education sessions in the mix. And it's really all about building the connections to help folks succeed. And so this year, well, a lot of the projects end up being sort of this one-time service opportunity, right? It's a way to sort of introduce folks to maybe new organizations in their community or new opportunities or a chance to explore. And we thought it would be really nice, and we had 2 volunteers step up and offer to talk a little bit about what it looks like to be a long-term volunteer with an organization and the impact and the strategy, and in some cases, the time and commitment that might look like in case folks are interested in exploring that type of volunteer opportunity a little bit more. Pass it back to Chantel.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So now I get the pleasure of introducing you to our wonderful presenters that Sarah just mentioned. So they'll be speaking about their organizations that they're active with and then how you can be involved as well. So first up, we have Miss Sydney Level. So Sydney is originally from the small town of Amelia Island, Florida, and now resides in Augusta, Georgia, with her 4 cats, which you may see this evening. She is pursuing a bachelor's degree in psychology from SNHU, and upon completion, she has hopes of advancing her career in mental health field. Her journey with Crisis Text Line started in September of 2018, and after almost 4 years, she has steadily worked her way through the ranks to become an established and experienced crisis counselor. Her accolades include a diploma in mental health and a certificate in mental health first aid. One of the major highlights of what Sydney does is being able to be there for individuals she would never have crossed path with otherwise. People from all over the United States. She feels like it's such a privilege to be able to be there for such a diverse group of people. So we're so excited to have Sydney with us tonight. And next we also have Carol Tatum. So Carol is also an SNHU student, online student from McKinney, Texas. So Carol will finish her Bachelor's of Arts in Human Sciences with a concentration of Child and Family Services and a minor in Sociology in April of 2023. Carol has been involved with Autism Speaks since 2018 and the Texas Society for Public Health Education since 2021. She is passionate about helping special needs families because her youngest daughter has autism. Carol understands on a personal level the unique set of challenges that special needs families face each day, the gaps in public health that often unknowingly excludes them, and the negative impacts that this can cause on the family and their communities. Carol has been published multiple times in Autism Parenting magazine and was awarded Top Autism Contributor by Autism Parenting Museum magazine in 2021. Carol is a member of the NSLS Honor Society through SNHU and a member of the Tau Epsilon Alpha Honor Society through the National Organization of Human Services. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and pass it on over to Sydney, who will talk to you about the crisis text line tonight. So Sydney, the virtual floor is now yours.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Also, just want to say, if I seem awkward, I'm a little nervous, but I'll be fine. So
We're all friends here.
yeah. Do you want to just go to the first slide? Thank you. So Crisis Text Line provides free 24/7 high-quality text-based mental health support and crisis intervention by empowering a community of trained volunteers to support people in their moments of need. So like it says, because some of you might want to also utilize the service or maybe share it with somebody, just so you know, that's what it's for, and it's always 24/7. People are always there for you, confidential. And I also would like to point out that a lot of times people get confused by the term crisis. Crisis just means, any negative feelings that you're having, any overwhelming feelings that you are having, anything you may need help with. So you don't necessarily need to, be experiencing something that would be where like the police would need to get involved or anything like that. It just means if you need someone to talk to. Next slide. So how to reach out. So to reach out, you would first text hello to 741-741. From there, you are assigned a trained crisis counselor who then listens to you, goes through collaborative problem solving, can connect you with other resources, can help you with picking up coping skills. After, you will take all of the things that you were given and you would utilize them. But also, we do see a lot of people who do text back in. So if that is the thing that you would need, you could do that. Next slide. So how I became involved. About 2018, it doesn't seem that long ago. I just happened to come across an ad on, I think, Facebook for Crisis Text Line, and I knew that I wanted to get involved with something. I didn't know what I wanted to do, what category I wanted it to be in, but I wanted to, help other people. And so just one day saw this ad for Crisis Text Line, thought that sounds like a really awesome organization. So I did take some time to think about it because it is a big responsibility. It is something that you need to consider. But then I jumped in and did the training, and it has been the best decision that I've ever made. I am such a proud crisis counselor. I always talk about it. It's kind of obnoxious, but I just love what I do. So, next slide. So to become a crisis counselor, it'll seem more daunting than it really is. But first step, I would say, is first think about it. Think about the implications. Think about the things that you will have to talk about, the things that you will have to hear, because people are reaching out because they are in crisis. They're going through some rough things. So that's the first thing that you need to consider, is if you are ready to hear those types of things, and if you can provide support to those kinds of people. So once you were like, yeah, I would like to become a crisis counselor, you complete the 30-minute application, and then you are background checked. Doesn't take very long. You do have a 30-hour web-based crisis counseling and intervention training. They teach you crisis intervention skills, active listening skills, things like that. And then you take your first shift and you start being a crisis counselor. Next slide. So crisis counselors commit to volunteering 4 hours per week until 200 hours are reached. Ideally, you are expected to fulfill your commitment within 1 year. Before you begin as a counselor, you'll also complete a training period, like I said before, to give you all of the expertise you need to successfully and empathetically navigate crisis intervention. I would also like to point out, during this whole process, and even when you are 4 years into being a crisis counselor, you will always have people there to support you. You have supervisors, you have people that train you, so you are never alone in any of your efforts. You always have backup. So don't think you're just being, pushed into the pool and told to swim. You definitely have a lot of support. Next slide. Oh, am I done?
That's all we have.
Okay. I apologize if I seemed a little, but
Not
I'm
at
a
all.
little nervous. So
Not at all. Yes, absolutely. And so Sydney, is there, so like you mentioned, I think someone mentioned it in the chat, and I know we'll have more time for questions at the end too, but a lot of people saying just thank you for doing what you're doing, and great job, and the work that you're doing too. And it's wonderful to hear that other folks can also get involved, that it's not necessarily required to have a certain degree, or they train you and they have that support, right? So can you speak to any other pieces, like when you were first kind of joining? I know you mentioned they have the training and things, but in terms of the support there.
So when I first started, I was super nervous. But so when you become a counselor and you sign onto the platform, you are also assigned your own supervisor who just checks in with you, follows any conversations that you may be having with people who've texted in. And you also have a group chat of other counselors who are online helping other people, to where you can ask questions, you can get their input, any advice that they may have that you may need. So as you are working as well, like as you're on the platform speaking to people, helping them, you have also support right there with you.
So important, like you said, some incredible work that you're doing. So it's so important for the helpers to also have the support. So that's fantastic. So thank you so much, Sydney. This has been
Thank you.
wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. And again, as you for folks that are listening at home, as you're having any questions, we'll definitely have some time at the end as well. So if there's anything that pops into your head that you're wanting to ask Sydney, we'll have some space at the end too. But at this time, what we'll do is we'll switch over to Carol, who's going to talk to us a little bit about Autism Speaks in the Society for Public Health Education. So without further ado, Carol, I'll go ahead and pass it on over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Sydney. You did a great job. I'm a little disappointed I did not get to see your cats, but hopefully they will still make an appearance before the end of the night. So we go to the next slide, please. So Autism Speaks is a national nonprofit. Their mission is to help increase global understanding and acceptance of people with autism. They also support life-enhancing research. We also work to help with early childhood screening and make sure that families have access to timely interventions. There's also been a really big push for the transition to adulthood. Autism Speaks is now 17 years old. So the families that we helped 17 years ago are now entering into their adult years, and all of the services or resources that those families fought so hard to receive, they've now aged out of those services. So there's been a big push on the transition to adulthood. We also ensure that families have access to reliable information throughout the lifespan for that person and their caregivers as well. Next slide, please. Ways to get involved: you can participate in the annual walks that help raise awareness and funds to support research and grants for families. They also have the advocacy teams that you can join that helps send letters to lawmakers. They have templates online. So all you have to do is just fill out your name, sign it, your address, and it gets sent. It helps make lawmakers aware of upcoming legislation that would help support the autism community and their families. The kindness campaign helps improve awareness through social media. Corporate supporters: if anyone works at a large corporation or knows someone that works at a large corporation, getting them to get involved through their place of work so that they can help make and more autism friendly places for individuals to work, adults that are on the spectrum, and also the social fundraising as well. There's lots of ways to get involved year round. Next slide, please. And why I volunteer is I have a daughter with autism. So she was, I guess, the spark that started everything. The rates of individuals with autism continue to increase each year. We are now at 1 out of every 44 children are now born in the United States with autism. 31% of those children also have an intellectual disability. And it is estimated that over the next 10 years, we will have around 1 million teens that are aging out of their services and will be entering their adult years. So it is so important that we get the funding and research there so that those families are able to have a smooth transition. Next slide, please. The CDC has released information that the average family that has a child with autism will spend between $40,000 and $60,000 per year on autism-specific therapies and medications. And over the lifetime, it is projected that individuals will spend between 1.4 million and 2.4 million to care for an individual with autism. So again, it's just so important that we get the funding, the research, the awareness, because it's, it might seem small, like you have a small child with autism, but those needs continue to grow as, the child grows as well, and the family needs more support as well. It affects not just the child, but the family unit as well in their education, and the more resources they're able to get, the more they're able to help overcome a lot of those challenges, especially for families that may live in a more rural area that don't have the same access to doctors and services that other families have that live in larger cities. Next slide, please. And why I volunteer: it is good for our emotional wellness, our emotional health. It makes us feel good about being able to help others. It helps lower stress, and it's been shown people that volunteer generally are happier and have less personal stress. It helps give purpose to our lives, just helping us help others and making us have a deeper connection with those in our community, being able to help others that are less fortunate than us, or being able to use our personal experiences to help others that are first going through a difficult time. And also volunteering helps us become more engaged in events that are happening in our current regions as well, so that we can use those experiences to help others. Next slide, please. The other organization that I volunteer at is for the Texas chapter of Society of Public Health Education, also known as TSOFI. And they have SOFI, the Society of Public Health Education, is a national nonprofit that has chapters in all of the larger cities. Of course, I volunteer for the Texas one because that's my region. We have a lot of education opportunities for those that are testing for their community health education certification. It helps promote networking among health education professionals, and we also advocate for health education legislation. And I love tying my work with the Autism Speaks work and advocating for public health that impacts families with autism, because they're often left out of, I guess, the social norm, or when legislation is going through for public health, it looks at what the majority of the individuals in that community need. So a lot of times unknowingly, the smaller subgroups that have a different set of unique challenges are often left out. So I am there to advocate for those families. Next slide, please. The volunteer opportunities, you can serve on the executive committee. I'm currently serving as the undergraduate representative on the executive committee for TSOFI. We help create materials and virtual webinars on a variety of different public health topics. They have advocacy groups as well, and also continuing education certificates and continuing education opportunities for those that are majoring in public health and wellness. Next slide, please. Why I joined TSOFI was to help build a stronger professional identity, to help have the opportunity to participate in leadership activities, participate in national advocacy efforts. You also have access to newsletters, membership directories. They have scholarships as well for students that are majoring in public health. They have continuing education credits, again, for those that are looking into public health certifications, and the opportunity to share ideas and network with other public health professionals in the industry. So it's really neat. They always say it takes a village, and it really does. And collaboration is one of the biggest things in healthcare, and just being able to connect with other individuals that may have different strengths than you, or be able to look at something with a different perspective can actually make you a stronger advocate in your own field. Next slide, please. Oh, and we're at the end.
That happens. That happened the first time too. Yeah, absolutely. That fantastic. I mean, I think it's one of the really cool things that I'm hearing from you, Carol, and then also from Sydney is like just the building of community, right? So it could be subgroups of community, just in general, like it all strengthens community depending on, the volunteer work that you're able to do. So just incredible work and really cool opportunities that you're, both sharing and, in terms of just having a wide variety of different ways that you can raise your hand and help. So just such incredible opportunities, and I just really appreciate it. And I wanted to also open it up for any questions too. So I know Carol just talked about the Autism Speaks piece, and then also Sophie. Do I sound like that I had the lingo right? But I think that just making sure that we have space for questions or reflections or any of those pieces, this is definitely the time for you to be able to do that. Oh, great question. Great question. And we also can share these links because I know the screen that you're looking at isn't clickable. Let me go ahead and plop these into the chat too, so that you have access to them and can save them for later if you want to check them out as well. Here are the three, the Crisis Text Line link, Autism Speaks link, and then the Society for Public Health Education, which, as Carol mentioned, has different segments depending on location. So hers is the Texas version, but you can definitely check and see where the chapters are as well. Wonderful. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I was just gonna ask Carol, do you have a sense of, I'm sure that you do because you volunteer with your organizations, but what types of time commitments do you think you would say sort of in some of the various roles that you highlighted? Because you highlighted a couple of different opportunities.
Yes.
In terms of how folks can engage.
No, it's a great question. And I would say whatever you're willing to give, their organizations are willing to take. Before I went back to school and before I went back to work full time, I was volunteering for Autism Speaks between 35 and 40 hours per week. So it was kind of like my full-time job. So I've definitely had to scale that back since I went back to work and went back to school full time. But I'm just one of those people. It's really hard for me to say no, especially when it's something I'm so passionate about. So I always have to just kind of, remember to let my other teammates also help out, and it's okay to say no, if I'm not able to. And I think it's really important going into any volunteer position is just understanding how much time goes into it. I know for my Sophie, we are required to attend a 1 hour meeting each month to maintain our roles, and the work maybe 1 to 2 hours per month. It's not horribly time consuming. For Autism Speaks, it's, maybe an hour a week I might spend on that, but it's definitely something if you're open and say, I can only give 30 minutes, a month, then they would make sure that they find something for you that fits in the time that you're able to commit.
It's a great question. So really, like you mentioned, they'll take whatever they can, whatever you can give, right? So that makes sense. Daniel, great question. And this may be a wider question that we can kind of circle back on, but are there any other, or maybe that you are all familiar with? Are there any other public health organizations that have remote volunteer? I think you mentioned there was some volunteer work with Sophie, but I'm not positive on
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and Sophie, it's all remote. Even like with our Texas chapter, I think I'm the only one in North Texas. We are all spread out again, around our state. So it's all done. Everything is definitely, it's all done online.
Fabulous. Great question. Any other questions or reflections that folks have out there for our wonderful attendees or for our wonderful speakers and wonderful attendees? Or just all wonderful here?
I'm sort of just curious if there are other organizations that folks attending tonight have volunteered with. I think it might spur some additional thoughts or conversations.
Ooh, Becca. Becca asked a great question too. And this
Okay.
could be for Sydney and Carol. Do you each have a favorite memory or experience with volunteering that you could share with us all?
I have a funny one. For Autism Speaks, we were volunteering at in South Dallas, the high schools for their public health fair. So we were there with families that either had no insurance or they were having a hard time either with transportation or finding doctors. So it was really important for us to be there. We were there to help support the teachers at that school. And we had one family that came up to us and she asked, what do we do? And I told her that we help support families and individuals that are on the autism spectrum. And I asked her, does she have a child with autism? And she's like, yeah, I've got spectrum. And it's like, and after talking, we were trying to figure out what it was that she needed help with. She was trying to tell me that she had Spectrum phone service, not someone with autism spectrum disorder. So it was really funny, just having to use just understand that people are coming from different backgrounds. Yeah.
Too true. Absolutely. Because I mean, that is that the spectrum on another, like you said,
Yes.
another way. So
Yeah, for me, you say spectrum, I think autism. For someone else, they hear spectrum, they think phones and internet.
right. That's a great one. What about you, Sydney?
Well, crisis text line, like all the work you do there is remote. So I think some people may have the assumption that you can feel kind of disconnected to the people you're helping. However, once you end a conversation, you do get texture feedback. And I have some, and I can't quote them off the top of my head, and I shouldn't, but there are some that I have, like texture feedback, that I cannot read without absolutely just getting into tears, like face full of tears, because it's just these, it's so hard to explain just the feeling that I get when I am able to support someone. I know a lot of people who text in are like, oh, you just work here, you don't know me. And I just can't help but just like have just this never ending love for everyone that I've ever supported through Crisis Text Line. That it's a feeling that is hard to describe, but it is always there. And so, yeah, with the texture feedback, there's just some that just moves me so much that I'm a baby though, I cry a lot, but it's just tears.
Nothing wrong with that. You feel a lot of feelings. That's awesome, though. It's nice to know that you also have that support, right? Because you are dealing with some heavy things. And so I think that's also very important is for you, again, as a helper to have the support as well. So for sure. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I was gonna make a point. With you saying support, Crisis Text Line actually is a great organization for, like, if you have dealt with a conversation that really actually got to you, they will help you actually, like, what's the word? Not de-escalate. Try to get it out of your mind, help you cope, help you de-stress is the word I was looking for. And they don't always push for you to, like, complete hours and stuff. They're like, if you are also going through something, please take the time off. They stress, don't try to work on an empty cup. They are very, very into self-care because you have to care about yourself first before you can care about others.
So important, like you said, because you can't pour from an empty cup. I say that to myself constantly. So that is a very good analogy for sure. So that's great. I mean, I think it's very important with any volunteer work, right? Is just to make sure that you're also taking care of yourself. Very, very important. Fabulous. What other questions do we have here, or reflections? It doesn't necessarily have to be a question too. And actually, Sarah, I think you mentioned too, seeing if there are folks that have already done some volunteer work and maybe having some conversation there. I think we also have a question. If you've used the little hand raise, feel free to use the chat as well. So we should be able to see your chat there. And we could use a poll. I'm not sure how this is going to go, but if you have done any volunteering, we can try to use a poll. If you have actually done any volunteer work in your community, or you're just maybe interested in, maybe that's why you're here, is to think about ways that you could be involved. But if you have been involved, what organizations have you volunteered at? And feel free, you should see like a little poll at in your screen here, and you should be able to submit where you have done some volunteer work. So we've got the Red Cross. American Cancer Society. I think it's working. So you should all be able to see Warm Up America, Retirement Community. Awesome. These are wonderful. Radiate, Elevate. Animal Rescue. Our School, Cancer Society. Look at this. This is fantastic. We've got a couple animal rescues. And this is just such important work, right? Wherever you're, raising your hand to support you'll find people that need the support, right? American Heart Association, Cancer Society. What this does is a word cloud, and some of you may have seen this because there's no other good way to actually have you guys submit where your organizations are. So some of the words are split up. Know that they were together when you put them in, but it sees how many times people put words in. But Animal Rescue is for sure a popular one. But Ocean Society, Blue Ocean Cleanup, UPS. These are fantastic. Oh, we've got some in the chat too. Autism Speaks. We have a volunteer here, which is awesome. Carol, I would feel the same way. That animal rescue would be tough. I will say they have a lot of other jobs, so you don't necessarily always have to be with the animals. Sometimes they just need a good cleaner, and so you might not have to take them all home. We have some wanted volunteer at animal shelter. Again, Olivia, at your own risk, you may come home with multiple animals. And then you'll have 4 cats, and you'll be where Sydney is, where some of them just want to be stars on videos.
You don't even, I thought my cat Luna was going to try to get into the camera. No, she just jumped up here to bite me in the hand.
Wonderful. You know, just a little love bite.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, this is fantastic. I mean, just looking at all the helpers here just warms my heart. I mean, and if you haven't done any volunteering, you're here. You know, and these are just some really great ideas for you to get involved. Again, there's, you know, different organizations like that we've talked about tonight that have different varying responsibilities for time commitment and things like that. But of course, there's those longer term, more committed, more time commitment as well. So really, it's kind of like you mentioned, and Sydney mentioned this earlier, is just kind of like assessing sort of what you can do and what you can give, and then figuring out where you want to direct that energy, because there are always people that could, you know, could really benefit from the support that you give. So just appreciate you all being here. That's fantastic. Yeah, so starting to foster, which is also a very tough job. So, you know, props to you, Maggie. That is definitely, you know, there's a lot that goes into that. So, um, just love that you were able to be there for, you know, with your sister too. Fantastic. American Society of Clinical Pathology. Wow, fantastic. So again, the story of tonight is just that there are a lot of different opportunities for you all. And Crisis Text Line, Autism Speaks, and Society for Public Health Education are really three wonderful organizations that you can also get involved in. And just shout out to our two wonderful presenters tonight for volunteering what they do, the incredible work that they do with these organizations, but also volunteering their time to talk to us tonight about all of those things and all the ways that people can get involved. So we just appreciate you both very, very, very much. And again, if there are folks that have questions, by all means, you can use the chat. But we did record tonight too. Again, I'll put in these links so that you can, again, what you're looking at is not clickable, which is kind of a bummer, but I can put this into the chat, so you should all have access to this as well if you want. I've also added the link to Global Days of Service. So if you are new to Global Days, you can check out the website, see some of the projects that we did this year, see some of the recaps and the incredible work that this new community did throughout the 2 months that we had Global Days, and hope that we'll see some of you again if you're, already joined. And then for some of you, maybe the first time, we'll welcome you with open arms for next year. But again, Sarah, was there any other things that you or any closing remarks that you had for tonight?
No, I don't think so. So just so you all know, obviously we try to track sort of who's participated, but even in terms of registration, you all will get a little reminder about Global Days of Service next year. So if you're like a really good planner, which I am not one, feel free to add it onto your calendar. I think we're likely going to be doing sort of the March, April timeframe again, so you can sort of plan ahead for that. We actually start to recruit folks to lead projects somewhere between like November and January. This year it was sort of pushed back a little bit because we weren't actually sure we'd be able to do any in-person projects again this year. So in an ideal world, we'll start to reach out to some folks starting in November who might be interested in leading a project in their community. And we have opportunities to lead it in person, or if you have a virtual opportunity that you'd like to share, that's always another option as well. And then if leading isn't like in the calendar or in your time frame for this next year, we always invite you to participate. And so this year, I think we're missing, I'm sure, quite a few, but we had folks volunteering with at least 135 different organizations, like sort of within those 2 months. And I think the impact is really there, and it is really powerful. So, all right.
Fantastic. Again, like you mentioned, if you're not a planner and you won't remember, we'll send you an email.
Yes, you'll get a reminder.
You'll get a reminder. Fantastic. Well, again, thank you to Sydney and Carol for sharing all of the amazing work that you've been doing and that you're going to continue to do. We hope that everybody that has joined tonight has gotten to take something with them tonight. All the links again are in the chat if you need them. But just appreciate all of you for your engagement and for spending the night with us as well. And appreciate, again, all of the thoughts that you're doing as well to kind of get out there in your community, and all the work that you're currently doing too. So thank you to all of you. And of course, thank you to Sarah as well, for all the work that she does leading the Global Days of Service efforts, because we couldn't do it without her. So appreciate you all, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, or whatever time it is where you are. Thanks for spending time with us, everyone.
Okay, officially logging off. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Sydney.
Night.
Good night.